You're so close. I can hear you breathing.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Leftist lies and globalists, I'm pushing them back. From the saloon to the airwaves, I'm spitting it raw. Constitution's my compass, liberty's law. Big guns creeping, shadows on the land. Feds with the schemes trying to bind up my hands. But I'm the Sherpa, guiding through the storm. Red, white, and blue, yeah, freedom's reborn. They spin their tails, but I see through the haze. Media maggots, lost in the maze. I'm calling it out, no fear in my soul. This patriot's fire ain't losing control. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. Freedom's calling. Let this judge is twisting, trying to steal our rights, but I'm locked and loaded, got them in my sights. From J6 to the border, they're selling us out. I'm screaming from the mountain, hear my rebel shout. They mock the flag, but I'm holding it high. Stars and stripes forever under God's open sky. No globalist chains gonna cage this land. I'm the Sherpa with the truth in my hand. They push their agenda, but I'm breaking the mold. Their promises empty, their hearts ice cold. Chicago's bleeding, borders torn apart. I'm fighting for the people with the warrior's heart. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. I've walked the line, 41 years, badge on the grind, now I'm on the air. My voice like a blade, cutting through the lies that the traitors made. Hurricanes rage, but we're standing tall. Sheriffs of the Constitution answering the call. From the saloon to the heart of the fray, we're taking back America, no more delay. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. The static, hear my voice resound. Conservative Sherpa, freedom's battleground. Berserk, Bobcat, rolls will never kneel. For God and country, this fight is real.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another BZ's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR Media. The great. Oh, by the way, my chat room, as I promised, has been updated. Let me show you what it looks like first. This is the Saloon Denizen chat room, which I hope you're all enjoying right now, which is, of course, delineated clearly, plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent. This is one of a couple of chat rooms that I will be probably winkling around a little bit in December. So I'm glad that you've dropped in. It's great to see you. As you can see, I've decorated for Christmas. Maybe not so much. See, it's too early right now to wear my stocking cap. I'll wear that probably a week, maybe 2 weeks before Christmas. So we're not quite there yet. But in honor of Christmas, you can see my new tiara. And here it is. And as you heard on the introduction panel, who am I? I am your conservative Sherpa. I happen to be this guy, and I'm guiding you through the terribly insidious maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, tyranny, and betrayal. And today, by the way, happens to be December the 2nd, Tuesday, December the 2nd, the year of our Lord 2025. Please note what you're about to hear for the next hour or two, about 2 hours, will consist of my opinion and my opinion only. I am doing the job that the American media maggots refuse to do, and I am changing America one leftist diaper at a time. Here, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversations. We're still serving things like stiff drinks in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, clarity, proportion, context, tradition, all of those good things that you people customarily expect from me here in the saloon. Politics, crime, religion, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about everything right here in the saloon where the speech is free, but the booze is not. I am live streaming right now on a veritable horde of locaciones, which is right here. You can see them all right there. Not live on Spreaker because that only goes later on in podcasts. And I do tonight have some, let's see if I can find it. I do have some of this, but before we get to that, I want to show you this. Now, I do customarily with each show a little bitty update about the progress of Jake. And this is Jake as he actually looks like this was about an hour ago underneath the studio desk where I'm sitting right now. And as you can see, or perhaps you can't, he was kind of a little butterball about a year ago, and he's lost a whole lot of weight. So you can see how really thin he is. Today was not a fabulous day. He drank some. We feed him by the syringe. He had some water by the syringe, some liquid food, and it wasn't a great day. He wasn't particularly motivated. He didn't get up very much. So, you have to clock your wins where you get them. But anyway, as you can see, I have a new tiara tonight, which I will credit when the show closes. But I also want to draw your attention to this. Now, let me see if I turn my head this way so that you can read it. So hang on a second. I'll be away from the mic so that you can see. Now you can see that there's a green flag and it says ROCS, rocks. And at first I thought it meant, the Republic of Communist Squirrels. And maybe in some other country it does mean the Republic of Communist Squirrels. But this hat was sent to me, however, instead by Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense, and ROCS stands for Reaver of Common Sense, not the Republic of Communist Squirrels, you ridiculous, stupid guy. And by the way, for those of you who just tuned in, fuck Facebook. What is that, BZ? Oh, it's a dog with an F. And a B. I wonder what the dog is doing. Anyway, moving right along. This show tonight is where I am fighting for this nation. Now, important safety tip right now: when you're not a scholar in terms of grok, and you don't really know how to make it work all that well, but you do ask for it to build something that says, "Hey, give me an old guy with long hair and a beard that's fat with boxing gloves in a bar? Well, sometimes you just take what you can get. And apparently, after pounding the snot out of Grok for quite some time, I'm telling you, I got maybe 5 that were relatively acceptable. And you'll just have to take my word for it when I say, you know what? This one is the best. And then, of course, I wanted to go in and try to find out, because there used to be a way to go in there and change the emblem for the radio show and move it over to the left. And I couldn't find out how to do that. So for tonight, a thin old guy fighting for this nation instead of a fat old guy like me, which is really weird. I don't know where that kind of stuff comes from. So tonight we're going to have some stories. We will have the carousel of amusing GURP, not that much. And one is another thing that I wanted to bring right back to your attention. This may or may not be a new category. And I made the graphic for it, and I just have to come up with the intro for it, with the audio intro for it. I'm going to make a new segment called "Take a Big Steaming Mug of Fuck Right Off." I don't have the audio for that, but I will be gleaning it as soon as I possibly can. Anyway, there'll be a lot of news stories. There'll be standby for news. There'll be all the people that are fighting. I'm fighting for it. There are a ton of people that are fighting against this nation. And there's also another story that just occurred. It kind of broke maybe within an hour and a half ago. And my response was, oh, that was kind of a squeaker. Some of you know what I'm talking about, and perhaps some of you don't. Anyway, there will only be a couple of incidents for the carousel of amusing GURP, which is coming right here. And this is pretty short. As leftists say, who's going to pick our crops? Imagine that. Well, I guess this guy's going to pick our crops. I have to tell you that I liked that graphic. I thought that the Juan Deere 3000, man, the Juan Deere are going to be doing that for you. Here's another story that I made. I put illustrated back up on last Thursday night, since this is the, no, not Thursday night, Saturday night. And I want to put this back up. I find it most interesting that the White House decided to create its own website called, it's at whitehouse.gov/media bias. And then they go into all the media, American media maggot bias. There's the claim, there are the representatives, the hall of shame, etc. And you can go into this and research this at your own leisure. That'll be found in the only on the Rumble side of the channel when I repost the show, because YouTube can't take the length of my links. So my links are not missing. Just thought I would point that out. But YouTube doesn't give me enough space to put in all the links that I want to. So if you want to see the links and maybe you missed something or whatever, go to the SHR Media Rumble channel, go to BZ's Saloon, and then you'll see all the links for the videos and the articles that were included in the show for today. And thanks to everyone for being here. Phantom is here. Unpleasant Blind Guy is here. ZZA, and I can't go up to see you, is here. I think Mission Ready Men was here. Sean Lewis is here. There's a whole host of wonderful individuals who are here tonight, and you too can jump into my chat room by going to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Go to YouTube. In the field, type in SHR Media, quick like a bunny, hit enter, and you'll see the SHR Media YouTube channel. You'll see the show showing live. Go in there, jump into the chat room, and then you can be right here on the lower left-hand corner. Let's see if I can get that. There we go. I'm actually pointing in the right direction. Here, and I would love to see you in the chat room. Here's something that, as Yes would say, was close to the edge, down by the corner, not right away, not right away. Well, it appears that the Tennessee special election in District 7, I think it was a congressional slot, was won not by the crazy leftist Bint and Afton Bain, who dodged questions on everything, hated everyone, and was still running. And I was saying something, if she pulls this off, oh my God, leftists. Well, you already know Democrats and leftists, probably hand in hand with George, flooded the zone with tons of cash against this guy. And she lost. And it was, let me see if I can put this up too. There was live coverage from Agenda Free TV. It's gone because she has lost and the other guy has won. Now, I told you that there are lots and lots and lots and lots of people that, whereas I am working for this nation, there are tons of people that are fighting against it. And you will see, as I have illustrated on prior shows, wow, this is really doing well. It's not even 20 after, and 71 comments have already occurred in chat. Thank you. Keep the comments coming. And let me take this down just for a second. I'm wearing a very special shirt for tonight. Remember, as I say frequently, this is no time to be sober. Skull, brother. So I hope you had or have your own adult libation. This is from the University of Minnesota. Now, speaking of which, I may or may not get an individual to give me a call. She sent me a message and she said, I would be very much interested in hearing your truth about Minnesota. And that was what it was. Truth about Minnesota. And I said, okay, I sort of know this person. And I said, okay. She says, I live in Minnesota. And I offered, hey, if you are there in Minnesota, you are more than welcome to call in. And if you happen to be watching the show, as a matter of fact, I sent you the number, but there's the number. The phone line is open. I got out my second phone and Bluetoothed it into the mixer just for you. So if you want to call and tell us what things are like in Minnesota, please, if you would, do. And I'd love to take your call because, as you indicated, you're there. I'm not. So, hey, you have firsthand knowledge. You're a firsthand witness, that sort of thing. This is from the University of Minnesota Culture and Family Life Lab. Whiteness, pandemic resources for parents, educators, and other caregivers. Look, female, white leftist female, white leftist female, white leftist female. What is the whiteness pandemic? Racism is an epidemic. CDC 2021. Excuse me, while I don't consider that a reliable source, that can be considered a pandemic given its large cross-national proportion. Well, who are the people that are pushing this besides racist blacks of all stripes? Why, it's generally leftist white females with what I think is a leftist black female, although I have not looked at her CV, but it's primarily women. And of course, that should not shock you, I believe, because it's leftist white women mostly, and leftist women in general, that are ruining this society. And so here's from Harvard saying that that white people need to be abolished. There are black identity experts claiming that they have support to be racist, that they don't mind shooting white people. We got to take these motherfuckers out. Whiteness is terrorism. Too many white people on campus. There are certain times, apparently, when it's okay to kill whites. White people might have to die and didn't violate a code of conduct. And white supremacy causes black citizens all sorts of pain. Americans who practice yoga contribute to white supremacy. Angry white male studies. White people need to personally give all their money to black people. USC bans whites from applying for jobs. White people are conditioned to commit murder. And trust me when I tell you that this just goes on and on and on and on. And, once you've gotten yourself sufficiently drunk to go through that video, you can go to my Rumble site and look at that and go through that at your own length. I mean, depending on how much of a masochist you are. Somewhere, okay. Not judging, wouldn't be prudent. Also in Minnesota, some of these things, well, okay. Perhaps a fairly good deal of these things will be from Minnesota. Look, it's Tampon Tim.
Donald Trump's modern day Gestapo is scooping folks up off
Gestapo, Destapo, Fralapo, Monapo, Gestapo, dipshit.
the streets. They're in unmarked vans wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
When you compare the old films of the Gestapo grabbing people off the streets of Poland, and you compare them to those nondescript thugs who grabbed that student, that graduate student, it does look like a Gestapo operation.
The United States is running concentration camps on our southern border.
Now, let me stop you right here. I'm fighting for this nation. These people are clearly fighting against this nation. One of the reasons you're here tonight is you believe that we need to fight for this nation. I began that with Tim Walz. Here is Keith Ellison, Minnesota's AG, and his statements contradict his contemporaneous public statements and raise questions about the intersection between political fundraising and constituent services. Basically, this is fraud and corruption. Don't have the time to go into it in depth. That's in Minnesota. That's Keith Ellison. Read the article and we will move on. But I'm just going to give you a list of indicators saying that, this is another one. Democrats are not fighting for this nation. They're fighting against this nation. Now, this should shock nobody. This is from the Sacramento Bee. Sacramento, where I used to broadcast at the SHR Media Studios. Sean Lewis is now broadcasting there and has taken the flag and run with it in Califailure. He is still there, and he's fighting the good fight there. But occasionally, the Sacramento Bee will come out with good articles. That's probably once every month, 2 months or so, and with not any alacrity or warning or regularity. Well, this is the Sacramento Bee saying, why socialism isn't the enemy at Thanksgiving time or at any other time. So now you've got a newspaper which essentially is advocating for socialism, although this is on the op-ed page, the opinion, but the only reason that they would allow it there is because they fully support this kind of stuff. They're not running and working for this nation. Also, here's another DEI hire, a judge who let out a man who lit a woman on fire, and perhaps you'd want to hear something about this.
I serve as Vice President for the Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equal Opportunity.
The first time I came out on the bench and the deputy announced, all rise, the Honorable Judge Teresa Molina, the whole courtroom stood up and I was all excited. He's walking out there and I saw an Illinois State Trooper. He was African-American. He had a sleeve covering his tattoos and he was standing there and he looked at me and he nodded and I knew what that meant. And so I looked at him and I nodded back like, that's right, we're doing this. And it felt so good. It felt so good. So to me, a fine of $354, which is our normal no insurance fine, that's a lot of money. And some of the...
Okay, stop. All people that think she's a racist, raise your hand. Thank you very much. Again, for 2026 and the rest of 2025. If you thought perhaps I was strident or insistent before, I call balls and strikes because that's my job. And that's what I do here. And you either like me or you don't like me for it. And I may use language that some of you could possibly find offensive to your sensitive little dainty Mayans, but that's not M-A-Y-A-N-S, folks. Come on. I know you leftists don't know what it means, but it's M-I-E-N-S. Mayans or means. Just thought I'd have to explain to you. But if this isn't proof positive of a DEI hire, then I possibly couldn't quantify one better than that. Oh, there are certainly many other examples. But remember I said it's leftist white chicks that are insane. I had an entire show of leftist white chicks that are insane, that are working against this nation. Guaranteed. And when I say I'm working for the nation, I'm fighting for this nation, these people are fighting exactly against this nation.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped, that have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel.
I got news for this lady. All of those things she's described as being like ethnic multicultural food, they're American, Americanized. Here's the best part. Chicken tikka masala, look it up. It was invented in Glasgow, Scotland.
And perhaps that's why BZ put that up. These people are hypocrites. They are massive hypocrites. This show is packed with so many lined up scads of hypocrisy that it has to be measured in furlongs per fortnight. That's how many illustrations I have for you just for tonight. Also, as I said before, there is a massive increase in mental instability in leftist women, particularly leftist white women.
Women are, especially liberal women, are not doing well. You see the highest rates of mental illness among single liberal women. And it's because it's a philosophy that pits women against their own bodies and against their own children. Feminism coaches women to reject their bodies, reject the natural realities, especially of their fertility, especially of their reproductive capacity. Women are...
So let me tell you, hell, I'll ask you, do you know of any leftist women, white women in particular, that are happy, that have ever been seen to have a smile on their face, except for the day that Obama was elected and perhaps when Biden was elected? Other than that, there will be no smiles on their gesichts at all, because their job is to fight against America. Their job is to undermine America. And that's what's going on today. In terms of America, I find this particularly sad. I was born in Sacramento, California, and I spent a good bulk of my life there until my father was in the military and we moved around in the military, went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, lived on base there. But in the process, I went to San Francisco any number of times. And if you have ever had the opportunity to be in San Francisco, essentially at one point, it truly was a very beautiful city. And now the big tourist attractions like Fisherman's Wharf, and then there's another one, which is Pier 39, They're desolate. They're mostly gone. This is what they look like now.
Another one, gone. Right next door, another one, gone. And it's like 5-6 restaurants just in this little spot.
Fisherman's Wharf.
Look at the size of this one, Aliotos.
Now, when Aliotos says, I had been there any number of times. Since 1925, they're not kidding. They are sitting right over the water. In these restaurants, these businesses in Fisherman's Wharf are directly on the water. They have incredible views. And the bums and the pieces of crap and the crime and the druggies have driven most normal human beings out.
Since 1925. Look how large this restaurant was. And Fisherman's Grotto, same thing, gone. All of these was the
Fisherman's Grotto right there is where all those little things that you see, these are all booths, and most everyone had fresh crab available, and the labeling was crab packed for traveling. So you could pick it up and eat it as you walk around. You could have it sent to wherever it is that you live. Gone, all gone.
The restaurant. All of these places are closed. All of them.
Ate at Fisherman's Grotto.
They used to boil the crab on this spot here.
But he's right. This stuff is gone. That's California. That's what California has in mind for you. If you decide that you're going to let Governor Newsom, let's see, I think I have a photograph of him. Well, I'll get to that a little bit later. SHR put out a photograph of Newsom, and I'll let you see his rippling abs in just a moment. Oh my God, you know what? I forgot this. And so I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of Common Sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing. They're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passionate.
Are you looking for bold and honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleashed 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleashed101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom. just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. I'm BZ. Thanks for being here tonight in the Saloon. I'm kind of sort of decked out. And first, I want to thank Jersey Joe. I will show this again. He sent me a very beautiful hat, which says rocks, like this. Watch. And of course, at first, I thought perhaps rocks meant the Republic of Communist Squirrels. No, it does not. It means the Reaver of Common Sense. For whatever reason, I didn't get that. And then in the back here, you can't see it. It is personalized, and it is sewn to BZ. It is I, none other than the Bloviateng Zaberlinski. Here, one each for you tonight. We're still in Minnesota. Minnesota Mayor Jacob Fry says he's not going to cooperate with ICE, and continues by saying so in Somali. What a dude.
That's not American. That's not what we are about. And we're going to do right by every single person in our cities. And so to our Somali community, Daman Shabka, Somalied Kunul, Minnesota, Garahan, Minneapolis, Waan, Ku Janila Hai, Waan, Ku.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Let me embiggen this. See the guy in the background? He's looking at this guy like, we have got you exactly where we want you. You are such a capitalist. You have no courage. And that is why we're going to win. And we're going to take over your city first. So thanks, Mayor Fry in Minneapolis, who helped urge and spur on the George Floyd riots, because essentially that's what he does. Next up for bid is an individual that is disgusting and dangerous. Because I've said before, sooner or later, at this point in our history, in the tempest of these times, we're going to have this fight. I said to people, we're going to have to choose a city and abandon it and let it be the lurk, the leftist urban rat cage that illustrates that all of this socialist, communist, muzzy crap won't work. Well, I would have preferred it to be Portland or Seattle, but the voters in New York City weren't having it and voted a muzzy, racist, anti-Semitic communist. He says he's a Democrat socialist, but all Democrat socialists are commies at heart, which is where precisely they wish to eventually end up. And just take everything that belongs to you. But I said also we're going to have that experiment with a city. It's going to be New York City. I said sooner or later, we're also going to have the experiment with regard to law enforcement. Here's the chief of police in Minneapolis. Guy's name is Brian O'Hara, and says Somalians in Minneapolis should call 911 if ICE shows up wearing masks to make arrests. He says his police department will respond and intervene for illegal invaders. Interfering with immigration enforcement obviously is a crime. Here's 60 seconds of him saying, we don't care. And I'm saying, guaranteed, at this point, with this amount of push towards violence, we're going to have some interactions between two different cadres of law enforcement. Of that, I have zero doubt.
Folks that are masked, that they're not sure if they're law enforcement, that they may be kidnapping people. Like, we have had those reports. I want to be clear to the community. The community should
see, again, the guy on the right who's kind of frowning a little bit. He's loving this because he's saying that not only Jacob Fry, but this guy right here, this stupid white guy, another stupid white guy in front of me, is a wonderful, useful tool for Islam.
know that if you see something like that, that is legitimate, that you don't know if someone is law enforcement, you should call 911. And you should provide as much information as possible, because let's not forget, we very recently had tragedy in this state by someone who was purporting to be law enforcement. So please, let's be clear. That's something everyone should report, and that we will immediately respond to, and we will document, whether it's somebody's not sure if there's a kidnapping happening, somebody's not sure if that there's law enforcement present or not.
There have been 0 kidnappings. And the thing that he's referring to was a personal grudge from one guy to another. There were Minnesota Politico people whose names and positions I forget, but the guy went into and shot and killed. He was attempting to shoot a female, but shot the male instead, went to another house. That was all personal. Those were all grudges. These are useful tools and useful idiots. It's a guy like this who's despicable, who's in law enforcement. You, sir, you are just a piece of filth wearing a uniform, and you dishonor that uniform, and you dishonor that badge.
And that's something else, that's additional policy requirements that we are implementing.
And your policy requirements have 0 sway over federal law enforcement. So this guy is basically engaging in cosplay and wishful thinking. But if you keep pushing that, eventually, it's going to go places that you didn't want to go, that we're not pushing, that you and the left are pushing. Here's another video where Kristi Noem, DHS secretary, discovered and said that 50% of the visas in loving Tampon Tim Waltz's Minnesota, 50% of those are fraudulent from Muzzies, from Somalis. Imagine that.
Into Minnesota and their fraud on visas and their programs.
You're going to have to turn it up.
50% of them are fraudulent, which means that wacko Governor Walz either is an idiot or he did it on purpose.
There is
He's bold.
absolutely. I know you can't hear that, so I'm going to stop. Waltz is either this is what he's doing is either intentional or he's the moron of morons. He is a moron. I would agree with that, but I also believe that a good percentile of that is intentional. And this is Greg Gutfeld from the 5 essentially saying the same thing.
The only thing I'm going to take responsibility for is putting like 2 people in jail after what I don't know, is it like a decade, $1 billion in which they ripped off the elderly, infants, the sick, the hungry. They should be executed, right? This guy shows up. Hey, I arrested. No, you're like the guy who shows up and eats the free pizza, but you didn't help any of us move the furniture. Hey guys, I'm here. What you're seeing is the ultimate opportunity cost of electing a vacuous virtue signaler with no skills at all. While he was pushing tampons and trans and men's rooms, the Somalis were ripping off the state like it was a 24-hour mini mart in Philadelphia. This is what happens when you elect a person who will say anything, but is incapable of doing anything. This party, his party, they are the ultimate in self-serving, self-seeking selfishness. Does that make sense?
They are narcissists. They are sociopaths. Oh, BZ, how can you be so judgmental? Look, A, I have eyes. B, I have ears. Maybe they don't work as well as they used to. And also, I worked 41 years in law enforcement. And one of the primary reasons that I'm still here is because I had to be, I didn't have the luxury of being a great judge of people immediately. Because I had to figure out as soon as possible on a call or a vehicle stop or any other type of critical incident or situation, I had to be able to judge your character and decide whether I had to defend myself, I was going to listen to you, I was going to watch your hands, and I was going to have to decide whether or not I would kill you. Not that I haven't done that before, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But the only reason that I am still here is because I'm a fairly damn good judge of people in critical calls and incidents and situations. My spidey sense had to work, and it's kept me alive quite well up to this point. I came across this, and I thought, oh, God, this is going to flame the tails out of everyone. So I thought, okay, well, before you display this on social media, and by the way, I'm not in social media anymore on Facebook. I'm in the process of not commenting to people anymore. I don't put any of my political stuff up there anymore. Facebook, as far as I'm concerned now, is good for only pimping my shows. The pre-show announcement and anything live and any post-show or podcast. That's the only attention I'm going to be paying to Facebook anymore. You guys know the story from last Saturday night. But with regard to this post, I thought, okay, at first, you have to be careful. And I've told this to Mrs. BZ. If you see something in social media that at first you think really resonates with you, and the other thing you think is, man, I really want that to be true, you have to put up the talk to the hand sign and cool thy jets for a moment, and then go back and do some investigating. And I've spoken to Mrs. BZ and myself any number of times about that, where I have got us both to the point where when we see something that at first blush appears to, oh, this is really cool. Wait, stop. Go investigate. We're conservatives. We're Republicans. Well, I'm not a Republican, but for the people that are still Republicans and or independents, I'm a conservative or a conservatarian. But for those people, we cannot afford to look like morons, because leftists will use this against us, of course. And so when there's even you feel one little warm drop of pee hit your shoulder, and you think, oh, I better investigate that. Yeah, you better. Until I did the investigation for myself of this. And then that's when I decided that I was going to pull and put this up in social media. Now, I cannot, sadly, embiggen this any bigger than it already is. So I will read this to you. And for the people that are in Spreaker audio only, yes, most definitely will I read this to you. This is from a guy named M.A. Rothman. The data was so bad, the room went silent. I watched this video clip of a Christian-Muslim debate, and the single most jaw-dropping moment wasn't an argument. It was a series of stats. And nobody shouted, stormed off, anything like that. Nobody had a comeback or a snappy bit of witty repartee. And the speaker, who happened to be a Christian speaker, put the numbers on the screen. The whole place froze. First cousin marriage rates in Muslim majority countries are off the charts, and the cognitive outcomes track right with it. And those aren't opinions. Those aren't insults. I looked for the stats myself. These are published with consanguinity rates paired with average national IQ. And it goes from Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, Yemen, Qatar, Oman, Syria, Turkey, Jordan, Egypt, Morocco, Mauritania, Sudan, Afghanistan, Algeria, all having one thing in common. They are predominantly Muslim countries. Pakistan IQ 81, Saudi Arabia IQ 76, UAE IQ 82, then 80, then 63 in Yemen, 81 Qatar, 79, 74, 87, 80, 76, 67 in Morocco, Mauritania 60. That's about the intelligence of Iraq. And then the rest of the information comes also. First cousin marriages aren't discouraged in many Muslim countries. They're normalized. In some places, it's considered preferred. In other words, it's pushed as a way to keep wealth in the family. But there is a biological cost. Christian majority countries in the West have rates under 1%, and their societies are modern, innovative, and stable. It's no mystery. It's no conspiracy. It's just stats and biology. Nothing more like that. It doesn't have to do with anything of an ist or a ob. I'm running short. You can play this video. You will see this article in the Rumble channel, and you can play it and listen to it at your very, very, very own leisure. And then I'm going someplace else. Now, this is the current push, because there will always be a current push. BZ, what's the one from Somalia? Let me go back and see if there is one from Somalia. You know what? Here, UBG, I do not see one from Somalia. I see just about every place but. And if you want to go digging and your investigation show up something in particular with regard to Somalia, I would love to, in fact, see that. Remember the 51 intelligence experts who said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation? It turned out that they were all liars. Leftists and Democrats and globalists are doing the same thing with the narco bombings. Former JAGS working group unanimously considers both the giving and execution of these orders, if true, to constitute war crimes, murder, or both in the Caribbean boat strikes. Well, it's funny you should mention that, because BZ has a memory, and BZ happened to live through a lot of these things. And BZ cobbled together a bunch of information, which I will present to you after this. This is from the Wall Street Journal, which says essentially the leftists and Democrats were saying, no, there are no drug running boats. They don't exist. They're blowing fishermen and recreational boaters out of the water. They're killing them. They're killing them dead. Wall Street Journal, deliver or die inside the drug boat crews ferrying cocaine to the U.S. If you read that article, what you'll discover is these people do it because it's exciting, it's fun, and it pays well. Imagine that. The truth from the Wall Street Journal. And then also, because I have a memory, this as well. Perhaps it's time to put this up. You know, when Democrats do it, whatever it is, it's okay. It's all right. No problemo. And that's where they can, in fact, take a warm, steaming mug of fuck right off. Because, in fact, I happen to have this. Because I have a memory. And the memory is evil Trump is sinking poor little brown people, Venezuelans, who are doing nothing more than putting around in little boats in the middle of the damn ocean for no particular reason. And they're fishing and they're catching crab or smelt, or they're just enjoying the, what a wonderful day to be out in the sea and sniff the salt air. But leftists are saying that evil Trump is killing and destroying and sinking Venezuela drug boats. Okay. So I have a memory, and I went back in the Mark I Model 1 Brainulus and remembered, hey, anybody remember Panama in 1989? Congress, if you remember, did not sign off on the invasion of Panama. President George H.W. Bush ordered the invasion without seeking a declaration of war or formal congressional approval. When Congress was notified before the invasion began, they did not formally authorize the military action. So Georgie H.W. invaded an entire nation, not just took pot shots at boats in the middle of international waters. So, in terms of presidential authority, George H.W. Bush cited his constitutional authority as commander-in-chief to order the invasion, which he dubbed Operation Just Cause. Go back and look at that. Anybody remember Operation Just Cause? I certainly do. Imagine that. But I didn't see the Democrats at the time or leftists up in arms about that, thinking that if they could, they would prosecute George H.W. or they would impeach him, or they would work against him. Nothing happened. And then what happened? Noriega had his ass kicked out, and he went to prison. Hey, how about this? Anybody remember President Clinton and Haiti in 1994? I do. President Clinton did not receive formal congressional authorization, like some kind of a joint declaration of war or a declaration of war itself or a resolution, nothing like that, before he decided to deploy troops to Haiti in 1994 into a country for Operation Uphold Democracy. And did you happen to see the hate and discontent that came from that? We must have hearings. We must impeach. And I recommend criminal prosecution of William Jefferson Clinton. No. Or how about this? There's a lot more than this, but I don't have all the time, and I'm coming up against a break. How about President Obama deciding that he was going to drone a U.S. citizen in 2011? Not in international waters, in a specific country. So there was a dude named Anwar al-Awlaki. He was a U.S.-born kind of guy, became a cleric and a key leader in Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. And he was killed in a deliberate drone strike authorized by Obama in Yemen in September of 2011. So U.S. officials at the time, they justified the targeting, which was approved by President Obama on the basis that al-Awlaki posed an imminent threat to the United States and that capturing him was not feasible at the time. And by the way, in that area, they sent a second drone just to make sure he was dead. Okay, but President Trump killing narco terrorists, and some leftists now, go to shrmedia.com for that article, and some leftists are saying, oh, there is no such thing as narco terrorists. Ask Venezuela, ask the Scheinbaum family, ask Mexico City, ask all of Mexico, ask all of the judges that were killed, ask all of the law enforcement officers that were killed, ask all of the politicians and journalists that were killed, if they believe that there is such a thing as a narco-terrorist, while leftists here in the United Snakes of America say, no, there is no such animal as that. And I think President Trump said, at the rate of 287 to 300 American deaths per day, due to fentanyl precursors and other drugs coming into this country, mueled, of course, by the narco-terrorist drug boats from Venezuela that are being targeting. I think he came somewhat to the simple conclusion that, I don't know, maybe 3 words, he said, enough is enough.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Mission log entry. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wonder is officially off course, chasing rogue rocket launches fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm BZ, and I'm back. I have more evidence. I have more receipts. I have more bulbosity than you could shake a dead Hyrax at. Whip it around your head. See how far you can fling it. Can it go over the 340-yard fence? I don't know. That's a story for another day. It's Tuesday night. It is December the 2nd, the year of our Lord 2025, and I am super damn happy to be here tonight. And I said I had evidence. Here's some evidence now. This is back in 1994, and I'm going to make a relational illustration here very shortly. Back in 1994, as opposed to, well, you'll see in just a moment. This is from the New York Times. I went into archive.is. By the way, if you want to get through all the paywalls and passwords and all that GURP, go to archive.is, put in your link, and then you can bypass all that junk and find it and see it for yourself, which is how I got this here from the New York Times. I didn't pay a damn thing, nor would I ever pay anything to the New York Times, as you well know, or buy ads in Facebook. I bled all about that last Saturday night. I'm not gonna do that again. Look at the headline. This is from the New York Times. Showdown in Haiti at the White House. Clinton addresses nation on threat to invade Haiti. Tells dictators to get out. But see, just like I said before, it's okay when we do it. Now look at this. Trump gives Maduro ultimatum to relinquish power in Venezuela and get out. That's evil. That's bad. That's terrible. Now it's okay when they do it. It's okay when AOC or any of the other little leftist bints and commies and Democrat socialists and anarchists want to do it. Okay with Bill. Bad for OMB. Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. That's very, very bad. Those are very bad things. Also, I said earlier, remember, that there are certain people that said, there is no such thing as a narco-terrorist. Hey, look, Jersey Joe from SHR Media. Go to shrmedia.com. And Jersey Joe has the article here, says, yes, narco-terrorists exist and federal law proves it. Now, if you would, go over to SHR Media. The link will be in Rumble for all of the articles, but this one is pretty much an easy hit. SHRmedia.com, and you'll see that story, that article listed right there at SHRmedia.com. So all these people are doing is lying, gaslighting you, and trying to make you think, oh, well, it's you that are screwed up. You're the one that screwed up. You're the racist. You're the Islamophobe. You're every ist and obe that we say that you are. Until we also find out with regard to Minnesota, like this.
So in case you did not know, Somalis are notorious for looting, stealing, their piracy, very well known for. They marry children, they don't have women's rights, women can't vote. And when you import a bunch of them into the middle of Minnesota in our country, they're going to do the same thing. They are going to steal. They are going to...
Get out! That can't possibly be. Whoever she is, you name the ist, the blank ist, and the blank oh, boy, she is it.
Crazy that we've done this. They're not going to assimilate. They are just going to find a stronghold of a shared community of values that they have, Somali values in a Western culture, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to cut off female genitalia because 99% of Somali women have done that.
Read or look up FGM. Find out what FGM is.
Or I guess had that done to them. They are going to steal. Again, what do you think of when you think of Somalia? Piracy, which is exactly what we are seeing, because in case you did not know, there is currently a massive investigation into this Medicaid fraud scheme amongst the Somali community in our country. They're making fraudulent claims and they are stealing from the taxpayers. They're stealing from our government. And if that wasn't bad enough, it has been reported that we are the largest funder of Al-Shabaab, their terror group back in Somalia. Yeah.
So your American taxpayer, your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars are funding a terrorist group because you're trying to be kind to Somalians who are taking advantage of you. So these refugees, air quote, pulled off one of the biggest Medicaid frauds and heists in history. $400 million that they cheated out of fake autism. Oh, my child, in Somali, however you say that, has autism. And bills and kickbacks up to $1,500 per kid, per family. Clinics that don't exist called ghost clinics, and money wired straight to Al-Shabaab terrorists. Go look up Al-Shabaab, AL-SHABAAB. Take a peek and see what lovely people they are. This isn't immigration. This is an invasion, which is why I call them illegal invaders.
They've been defrauding the U.S. government and then sending it to our enemy. And we are at work paying for it. Calling this out, it's not racist. It's not xenophobic. It's not being anti-Somali. It's saying, hey, I actually think Western culture, the freedoms that we have, are superior. I would much rather live in a country where I have a voice, where I can vote, where my genitals aren't removed, where I could wear what I want, practice what religion I want. I think that's a superior way of life. And the people in Somalia do not think that's a superior way of life. They are coming here to change it and expecting anything else from a group of people that have not changed in their home country and then bringing them here and thinking they're going to change here.
Is group insanity. And that group insanity, thy name, are Democrats and leftists. Sometimes things truly are as simple as they would appear on their face. And that's one amongst a great number of instances and times. I'm looking for another story. Here we go. In this particular video, a gentleman by the name of Wajahat Ali says that, I don't like white people. So let's see what he has to say.
You have lost. You lost. The mistake that you made is you let us in the first place. See, that's the thing with brown people. I'm going to say this as a brown person. There's a lot of us. Like a lot. There's like 1.2 billion in India. There's more than...
BZ, you're such a racist. Did I force anyone to write any of these articles? No. Did I force any of these people into the situations that they find themselves in public on video? No. Did I force any of these people to create these videos that all I do is scour the internet in a relatively brief period of time and bring it back to display to you? No, it's not very difficult. And on top of that, I wear a baseball hat with a stupid set of flashing reindeer antlers on top of my head and have fun doing it. Am I making this guy say this? No, go.
The 200 million in Pakistan. There's like 170 million in Bangladesh. Those are just the people there. I'm not even talking about the folks who are expats or immigrants. There's a bunch of us. And we breed. We're a breeding people. And the problem is you let us in 1965. There were a few of us beforehand. But once you let one of us in, you know what happens with brown folks? Our grandmother comes, our grandfather comes, our uncle comes, our aunt comes, our cousin comes, our second cousin comes, our third cousin comes. Then we have kids, a bunch of kids. And then guess what? Some white women, you know, the Western civilization women, the pure women, the American women, quote unquote, the Rust Belt women, the real women, they like some of us brown folks. We don't take them. They come to us. So we're embedded. We are everywhere. We are everywhere. I've traveled this country. I'm going to speak as a brown person. Brown people are everywhere.
I don't need to say that. He's saying that for me. Ricky Wasabi, what's up?
There will be a Patel Motel or there will be a Desi restaurant everywhere. I want you to realize this. You have lost. Your story is a shitty story filled with misery. It's filled with bland chicken. It's filled with terrible, terrible dry ass meat. Your music sucks. All your culture sucks. Nobody. That's why the kids like listen to black people and their music. That's why the kids love Latinos. Your parties suck because they're monochromatic. Our parties have better food, better music, better looking women.
Again, you know, I don't have to make this stuff up. All I do is look on the internet and bring it to you. But BZ, you must be a racist for just doing that. And unvetted Afghan illegal invaders shoved into C-47s and flown to the United States of America. They were all vetted. Wait a minute. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was an individual back in, let me put my thinking hat on, back in 2021, who may have foreseen something about this.
I see that Senator Ben Sasse went on national TV yesterday and attacked me for suggesting we should focus on getting our own citizens out of Afghanistan rather than the Afghan refugees. And he said, great countries honor their word. Of course, nobody disagrees with that. It's a ridiculous platitude. The question is not whether we honor our word. The question is, who have we made promises to? Who do we owe an obligation toward? And to any leader of this country, the obvious answer should be American citizens. So let's focus first on getting them out of Afghanistan before we say another word about the Afghan refugees.
Stop. Going back to Bagram, and I can't think of the name of the civilian base. We gave up in terms of evacuating Afghanistan. We gave up a secure airbase to evacuate from essentially an unsecure civilian airbase. Our soldiers left first. That was a Biden, Lloyd Austin, Mark Milley decision. And our civilians were evacuated last with an even lesser number of soldiers to protect them, with all of the equipment subsequently just handed over to the enemy. And then at Abbey Gate, a suicide bomber blew up and killed 13 of our soldiers because the military didn't even know how to conduct an investigation. And then following that, Afghanis rained into our country.
Now, Senator Sass also said that he would welcome the Afghan refugees to his neighborhood with open arms. That's very sweet of him. I'm sure a lot of liberals will say very nice things about him because he said that. But the question is not whether we help the Afghan refugees. The question is, first, how do we do it? And second, how do we do it in a way that doesn't destroy our own sovereignty?
Thank you.
So let's have an honest question about what exists in Afghanistan. According to Pew, 40% of the people there believe that blowing yourself up, committing a suicide bombing, is an acceptable way to solve a problem.
Not in keeping with Western values.
So yes, let's help the Afghans who helped us, but let's ensure that we're properly vetting them so that we don't get a bunch of people who believe they should blow themselves up at a mall because somebody looked at their wife the wrong way. That is not real leadership. Real leadership is accepting the trade-offs of the situation, putting our own citizens first, and not dealing with fake platitudes because it gets people in the media to say nice things about you.
What was Ellis Island? Anybody that knows, hand up. That was the place where we attempted to vet immigrants before we let them into the country. And we shipped people who didn't make the cut. We shipped them back. Now, how do you vet Afghanis? Oh, I know, BZ. As I said before, Saturday night, you go to the Afghan database and type in and find out, whether Mahmoud with a ch is better than a Mahmoud with a Mohammed. How do you do the vetting on? You can't. There is no Afghan database per se. So why are they here? Well, that was J.D. Vance, and I liked him in 2021. And he said, no, I didn't like Trump, but he came around, and that's okay. And he was excoriated for that, but he really was excoriated for this. And this is one of those times where I'm just playing this because I can, because I liked J.D. Vance's answer.
When you talked to us in August, you said, I don't think we should abandon anybody who's been properly vetted and helped us. Do you stand by that?
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning terrorist attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals
but there are
have been properly
30,000
vetted.
people in the pipeline, Afghan refugees.
But my primary
Do you stand by
concern
it?
as the vice president is
You can't vet 30,000 people. It can't be done. Leftists and Democrats would throw camshafts and car parts for the amount of time that it would take to properly vet them because of the lack of the appropriate and requisite database.
is to look after the American people. And now that
So
we
no.
know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash
There is no vetting.
thousands of unvetted people into our country.
These
It's
people are
not
vetted.
good.
These people are vetted.
No, they're not. Prove it. They're not vetted. Prove it. You say it. Prove it.
It's like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago. He was allegedly properly vetted, and many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly, he
Yeah.
wasn't. I
Yeah.
don't want my children to
Mhm.
share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted. And because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really
But
care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country. And I think most Americans agree with me.
I mean, that may have to be my new catch-all response to anyone and everyone about any question that you ask me, no matter who you are. I don't care, Margaret. Margaret, I don't care. because I don't care. Margaret, I really don't care. I had to throw that in because it just required tossing. This from Donald Trump. Even as we have progressed technologically, policy has eroded those gains in living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by the Sleepy Joe Biden auto pen, and remove anybody who is not a net asset to the United States of America. Did you know, were you aware, people, from generally roughly 1924 to about 1963, 64, or 65, there was essentially no immigration into the United States of America post Ellis Island. And that was because some people decided that it was a good thing to make sure that those who came into this country had time to settle and to assimilate and to become Americans in this great nation. And during that time, people will say, oh, but BC, there was still immigration. Yes, there were specific numbers delineated from very specific nations to those who could come in that period of time, but no more. It wasn't hundreds of thousands. It wasn't thousands. It wasn't millions. And the country had the ability to settle and to try to deal with the various cultures that were involved at that time. And I'm not speaking out of turn or anything of that nature. All you have to do is just go on the internet, like Unleashed Jeremy Hansen said, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. By the way, when I lean my head back like that, look at those antlers. Wow, I really do look like a Christmas reindeer, don't I? BZ, how can you make such a fop of yourself? My immediate response is, this is no time to be sober. And quite frankly, Margaret, I don't care. I think this is where I'm going to transition into, what do we have here? Do I have time? Yeah, sure, I have time. Stand by for news. And the news begins like this. Trans activist named Cassidy Malice, arrested on second arson charge, previously asked if he could begin burning churches. Continuing evidence that tranny units per capita are currently the most violent cadre we have in the United States of America, and they are targeting individuals. What does malice look like? Well, malice is an ugly guy, but simply an indication that this stuff is not going to stop. None of this is going to stop until we force it to stop, until we make it stop. We're going to continue to be victimized. And unless I continue fighting back for this nation, and you continue fighting back for this nation, because the leftists and Democrats certainly won't do it, because altogether too many people are profiting from this nation in a way they certainly shouldn't. Like, for example, Mark Kelly profiting and taking communist Chinese money for his balloon company, and yet deigns to sit and lecture us. Go back to my Saturday night show, and I tell you with great detail how it is that Mark Kelly and his claims of freedom of speech mean absolutely nothing under the UCMJ. And I don't have time to do it, but go back to my Saturday night show, and I show you and I speak to you and I illustrate for you in superior detail how this can be done. Now, the big question, of course, as per normal, is do we have the individual or collective will to be able to do this? And as I've said on any number of times, you know what? The Republicans, there frequently isn't a dime's worth of difference between leftists and Democrats and Republicans and terrorists. You may not be able to see this, and I will embiggen, let me point the right direction. I will embiggen that chart for you over off to your right as you look at this. Remember the guy that was the former U.S. Education Secretary? And he sat on, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Reagan's cabinet as Education Secretary. And the guy's name was Bill Bennett. And for a time, Bill Bennett had his own radio show. He was an alleged conservative. Did you know, were you aware, that Bill Bennett is a registered foreign agent for Qatar? He's being paid $30,000 a month, which is marmot piss, to convince Americans that Qatari universities don't support Islamist extremism. Here's the form. Pursuant to the Foreign Agent Registration Act of 1938. He's a registered foreign agent. Bill Bennett. These people are the remoras of filth on the bottom of the Mariana Trench, where after eons, all the whale shit in the ocean eventually congregates. And he's right down there at the bottom of the trench, along with Mark Kelly. There is frequently no difference between any of those folks. Then there's another story. I'm going to have my cybersecurity expert, Mike Fitzpatrick, come in and look at this story, but I think it's quite revelatory. This is from, of all places, and I occasionally go here because they write generally on a lot of stuff. By the way, good night, Big E. I see you got to run. You got to go to work tomorrow. I get it. Thanks for being here. But the Hindustan Times says, X's new country of origin thingy, where you go to a particular account and you look and you can find out where it's from, shakes MAGA and Democrat circles as many U.S. accounts are revealed to be foreign run. And then the American media maggots took off and ran with that, saying that almost all the conservative accounts, almost all the Trumpian accounts were found to not be Trumpian. They were found to be in, Pakistan or Zanzibaris. Okay, well, that was a good thing that Musk rolled out the feature that one's country of origin is going to be attached to that. In general, I think that's a good thing. But what was left out of that and most every other story were the leads that were buried, and you had to go scuba diving to the 48th paragraph before you found the truth, which is all sorts of anonymous accounts that were claiming to be MAGA and were pushing conservatism in the movement, were again underminers, and they themselves happen to be from, India, Pakistan, other nations like that, popular influencers, whatever the hell those are, with known identities, pointing out foreign fakers, which have, by the way, before this was instituted, claimed to have been American for years. So I don't see anything but good for this. And I go to my X account and it says, you're supposed to click on when you first joined, for example, X, and it will show the country of origin. Apparently, when you do it for yourself, you can't see it, but other people can see it, because I still can't get into mine and see where it is. But Sackhead Sean shot back to me one day when I said, I can't find it. He says, I go in there and I see you're from the United States. So it's there. It's right there for you to see. Okay. I think that's wonderful. I think that's cool. This is true. And this is why I say you're going out of your way to import illegal invaders into this country is just way, way stupid.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where leftists are running out of metal for the safety pins of their soothing red diapers, one man stands alone, attempting to fundamentally change America, one leftist diaper at a time. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, is guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat leftists and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Listen to BZ Saloon on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern on the SHR Media YouTube channel, Twitch, KLRN, Rumble, and X at BZ Saloon. It's one great late-night conservatarian talk radio show. Be there. Aloha.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
It's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Just like the Bidens, I too am moving. Only in my case, it's days and times. That's right, you can now find the Edge of Liberty Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on 11 Eastern on the SHR Media Network. Join me as we talk politics, news, alcohol, fun, not so much fun, clowns, small kittens, large kittens, dogs, amoebas, and anything else that just pops into my mind while I'm on the air. That is Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, on YouTube, X, KLRN Radio, Facebook, Twitch, and anywhere else a good podcast is found. Please check out our website, shrmedia.com. I will see you live on the air.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And it's the last half hour. Drink up, Shriners, if you would. It's the last call for alcohol. Thanks for being in attendance for this almost replete 2 hours tonight. It has been my uncertain, committed pleasure to be here and speak to you at length in this wonderful venue on behest and behalf of the SHR Media Network. We're a network, we're a media network, and I happen to be on it, as a matter of fact. And by the way, if you don't know who we are or how we identify as ourselves,
Featuring bobosity, unrestrained, and a carnival of conservative cogitations. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, continues on the SHR Media Network.
and of course, folks,
This is BZ's final hour. Step up. Last call for alcohol.
and from there, we happen to be going into this, and I believe it's
time for happy stories and good times.
Here's a happy story. I told you you would see this later, like my law professor, Elton Long, who said, beware, boys and girls, kids, you may see this material later in a test. This is no test. These are just the Ripley abs of the lovely and luscious Gavin Newsom, he of the oil hair. What a wonderful and wonderful and wonderful guy. He's this is, I'm not making this up. I'm showing this to you. I'm not trying to portray this as, I didn't make this up. I don't have to make this stuff up. This is somebody called Fozon Capital who wrote with this picture, who wrote yesterday, and it's gotten over 250,000 views by leftists. Gavin Newsom is the country's strongest and most powerful governor we have seen since 1776. No MRI or medical exam could ever possibly compete with the greatest governor ever. Donald Trump stands no chance. Meaning, of course, that Donald Trump stands no chance against Gavin Newsom. Well, if you put on your thinking cap, and even though you have been trolled luxuriantly for at least a year, Donald John Trump, OMB, is termed out. And oddly enough, so is Gavin Newsom. So there will be no head-to-head combat. There will be no 9mm at midnight between those two contestants. That's how ridiculously stupid these people are. Here's another happy story. And I've said this and encountered this before any number of times. And I generally say this in reply to, leftists or Democrats or whoever the hell they are on social media will be going one particular place and they'll say like, no, I'm not letting any conservative people near me and I'm keeping my legs closed and I'm taking the abortion pill and I love abortions and I love people that love abortions and I love people who love being aborted. And the happy story on this is that Democrats, I have the charts to prove it. Democrats, leftists, and globalists are doing their level best to non-breed themselves out of existence. That's wonderful. That, as I say, is glorious. We need way more abortions, way more closed legs in the Democrat, leftist, and globalist communities, way more. Here's a chart. There are more parents among conservatives, and you can see the chart of that from the 1980s, 90s, 2000s, and so on, from family studies. And then basically what that says is, look, punk, blue, punk. That's great. That's wonderful. Blue states see a falling child population. Now, do you begin to understand why it is that blue folks, not blue hairs, well, some blue hairs, they have to be replaced by illegal invaders because they themselves are non-procreating themselves out of existence. In my state of Idaho, there are buku families going out to eat with buku children that are predominantly much nicer and much more well-behaved than the people and the kids that I used to see as families if it wasn't just one mom out with, 5 or 6 kids. But leftists to what I say, I have to be honest and say I don't feel bad for saying it. Thank God they're not breeding. Thank God they have decided that they're going to close their legs. Thank God that they are aborting. Thank God that they are taking the pill, because this world, this nation, my state, we don't need any more leftists. None. Zip. Zero. The null set. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, as I spoke about Saturday night, has said, and this is going to be a problem. There are a number of problems coming up. I want to speak more about this on Thursday night. There are going to be more Republicans that are stepping out of Congress, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her doing that was a monster of her own creation and or disregard. But one of the things she said recently that particularly resonated with me was this: one must take a contemplative stance for some self-examination and introspection, Republican Party, and try to figure out how it is that you're going to attack for 2026. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, one of the worst mistakes you can ever make is overpromise and underdeliver. It's going to leave people pissed to the point that they won't even appreciate the good things that they received and the things that you've done for them. And to that, I say yes. And in response and reply, I said, yeah, here's what you have to do. Be like Scotty. Always underpromise and overdeliver. And that is something for which I most definitely occur. Now, USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins said she is going to be moving to do this.
We had a couple of people receiving benefits in 6 states. In February of this year, we asked for all the states for the first time to turn over their data to the federal government, to let the USDA partner with them to root out this fraud, to make sure that those who really need food stamps are getting them, but also to ensure that the American taxpayer is protected.
Okay, stop. Now, perhaps the volume was low. You're going to probably have to jack the volume up a little bit in your headphones or on your TV, wherever you happen to be watching this. Well, what she's saying is this: there's every reason for the federal government to demand receivables and metrics on SNAP benefits. That is to say, give me the stats. I want to find out. Each and every state has to provide statistics as to where and how this money is being distributed and where it's going. And of course, all the states are going to comply with that, right? No, of course not.
21 states said yes, not surprised. 29 states said yes, not surprisingly, the red states. And that's where all of that data, that fraud comes from. But 21 states, including California, New York, and Minnesota, the blue states, continue to say no. So
why? There's only one reason for that. And it doesn't take anyone with a PhD to realize is because, like Minnesota, that's where all the fraud is occurring, in blue states. And again, I have to go back and I must acknowledge good things when there are good things. All is not lost. That's not my point for tonight. My point tonight is I'm fighting for this nation. You're fighting for the nation. People that are watching and listening to this show, you are fighting for this nation, but Democrats and leftists and globalists are not. And they're thinking and wishing that this nation would go to hell. And they're not going to help us remove fraud, because the benefactors of fraud are the Democrats and the leftists, and those by whom they're trying to buy votes, as in, for example, in just Minnesota, the Somalian contingent, who have zero interest in assimilating. These are all classic truths, but it's also a happy story in terms of we got to get the information because we know who's cheating. We just have to get the goods on those. And here's the other thing that we have to pound. I'll get to another aspect of this in a moment, in just a few more minutes. This is from the Washington Examiner. This is not what you hear enough of. The affordability crisis, that's all you hear on the left. But their latest job on the left is blaming President Trump for former President Joe Biden's legacy inflation and claiming that Mamdani's, Kami Mandami's new socialism is going to solve the affordability problem when in truth, the reverse is going to be accurate. It's going to be making it worse, better, rather than better. If the AOC and the Sanders and the Jeffries crowd get away with this propaganda, and it is propaganda, and I'm going to illustrate and show you how and why, then the next red wave coming is going to be Marxist influenced in Congress in 2026. And I know a lot of people are going to be rolling their eyes right now. That's negative, BZ. We don't need negativity. Well, first you have to work from a position of understanding and truth and reality before you begin to rally the wagons and rally the troops and figure out how it is that you're going to combat this. And so you have to fight the propaganda. And it is propaganda. Families still feel the inflation, but there were Biden's high prices at the grocery stores. There was a story, go to shrmedia.com. There's a story in there about gas is the cheapest now it's been in 4 years, but you're not hearing those stories. Go to shrmedia.com for a lot of similar stories like that. And come and listen to my show and Earl Jackson's show and Sean Lewis's show and the shows on KLRN. And they will tell you the truth about what it is that's occurring. It's not all bad, but it's only bad that is going to be trumpeted out in terms of the American media maggots. Here's a case in point that I just mentioned from SHR Media. Gas prices are the lowest they've been in 4 years. There's the article right there. Go see it. Go read it. shrmedia.com. If you forget, go to the Rumble channel, the SHR Media Group Rumble channel. On Rumble, go to BZ's Saloon, and you'll see all the show links in there for this particular show. You'll find all the videos, all the articles, all the references that I illustrated for this particular show. What do I got? I got about 12 minutes left. I am not going to do overtime tonight. I got kind of a sick dog that's, well, one of the things with him tonight is he's not keeping anything down. And this is kind of an indicator that he's maybe sort of in his final lap. And when he's not he hasn't been voluntarily eating for a month and a half. And he hasn't been voluntarily drinking water for a month and a half. We've been using IVs on him. We're not using IVs on him now. We have the syringes that we're feeding him water. I mean, up to 30 times a day. It's been a hell of a work. It's been a hell of a job on my wife. And God bless her for having the knowledge and the skill and the fortitude to go ahead and continue with trying to keep this poor little guy alive. But go to SHR Media. I try to be as positive as I can, but positivism must also be backed with realism. And the realism is, as I'll explain Thursday night, we can't just focus, we as conservatives can't just focus on one thing over here. We're going to logic you to death. We're going to tell you the stats and the stories over here that you need to know because, we have the facts on our side. And a lot of people on the other side of the aisle are going, we don't believe you. That's bullshit. We can say anything we want. We're going to deal with the emotions. And you can see by that, just being emos, we are winning more elections than you'd care to acknowledge. And the truth is somewhere in the middle, right around there, is it not? So I'm not a negative Nelly. I'm just saying that, oh my God, if we need to be realistic, how we need to be realistic now. Other countries are managing to do it. And Japan right here, this is the swiftest, coolest, most inline chick that I've seen in Japan as PM, well, ever. One of the smartest PMs that I've ever seen in Japan, almost like ever. And so she has said, we're not dealing with immigration. Now, Japan admittedly has been a terribly ethnocentric country for centuries. That's how they are. That's how they roll. It's their country, and they get to decide that. I think, particularly with regard to her, we've had it. The new Japanese Prime Minister, Sanai Takaichi, has said, we've had it with illegals. And the other thing that she said is, you know what? I don't think we're going to do much with China now, as a matter of fact. We're a little bit upset about how you've been treating Taiwan, and we're actually going to go pro-Taiwan at this point. I have 3 more stories left. And I've not necessarily saved the best for last, but I have saved 3 Idaho stories for last. Because Idaho doesn't make the news very much, which is great as far as I'm concerned. I would much rather Idaho be out of the news. But this story is, now, let me make a couple of illustrations here before we go to the article. In Idaho, like every other state, even though they may be red states, there are still enclaves of leftists in every state, period, including Idaho. Boise has been invaded by people from Califailure. And at one point, they were just about ready to pour gas on Californians and light them on fire. They were so pissed. So Boise, down in southern Idaho, has, in the capital, has been pushed from red to an inkling of purple, which fights at loggerheads back and forth with itself. Because depending on who you believe, there's some people that are saying, well, we're turning a little bit more left. And other people are saying, you know what? They continue to fight. And the trumpeting that leftists are beginning to win is overblown. But if there are leftist enclaves in Idaho, Boise's one of them, and Coeur d'Alene, which is about 15 to 20 minutes south of me, because I'm further north of Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene is kind of leftist. They elected a piece of shit leftist commie mayor that basically said, fuck all people who are religious. That's a great mayor for a city. Nobody knew that until after he was elected. Nobody did their due diligence. Fie on you for doing that. And then there's a little teeny town way up, further up beyond me, probably 45 to 50 minutes north of me, really close to the Canadian border, called Sandpoint. And even Sandpoint has decided that, you know, today, like John Cleese in the 1981 or 80 movie Silverado, John Cleese got his hat shot off and he said, today my jurisdiction ends here. And some of the people in Sandpoint addressing the city council and in the city council have said, you know what? I think we've kind of had it with tranny bullshit. Sandpoint City Council repeals anti-discrimination ordinance following locker room privacy outcry. The Sandpoint City Council voted last week to repeal the city's 14-year-old non-discriminating ordinance following 3 hours of emotional public testimony sparked by an incident involving a biological male reportedly using the women's locker room in a local YMCA. And the mayor cast the tie-breaking vote to adopt a new ordinance that removes the city's local protections for gender identity, meaning that essentially, to be quite honest and realistic, at least for the time being, they're not going to see dicks and balls in women's locker rooms. Women's locker rooms should be the women's, and boys' locker rooms with dicks and balls should have the boys with their dicks and balls. Then there's another story which you may or may not have seen. There's a bar in southern Idaho. Southern Idaho. It's called the Old State Saloon. I think it's in a bedroom community outside of Boise East, I think. I've not been there. Boise is, for me, it's a long trip. Boise is 4.5 hours south of where I am. And unless I have a massive drive to drive, I don't drive anymore. And I sure as hell are not going to fly anymore, because I have zero interest in getting on a cattle car with nuts and people that smell and fight and barf. No thanks. I'll let somebody else do that. Anyway, from the Old State Saloon, it's on X. And I follow them at Old State Saloon. At Old State Saloon. Alert: anybody who helps ICE identify and ultimately deport an illegal from Idaho gets free beer for 1 month at Old State Saloon and the leftist shitosphere, shat, kittens, and car parts. And then, of course, as you can see here from Fuckbook, and let's see, where is it? Yeah, here's what I think of Fuckbook. And as you would expect, we removed a post from your page from the Old State Saloon. Well, that happened before. And Facebook said, wait a minute, but wait, there was a response. I got one more story after this, and then I'm going, hasta la bye-bye. There was a response. And it said, my wife spotted your ICE challenge. You might send someone around the Simple Suites by the airport at 2909 Elder Street. When I was there over a year ago, all the windows were papered over and a sign said rooms were booked. Non-Indigenous men were hanging out at the basketball court, and they didn't like checking it out. I was staying at the Fairfield Inn on a night walk. Seems to me at the time to be a holding location for illegals, which it was, as a matter of fact, and then gave more pointers to various apartments in Meridian, which was a bedroom community, which is, I think that might be where the Old State Saloon is located. And of course, the Old State Saloon put that out. And what would you think to be the response by leftists to that? Of course, violence. Idaho tavern owner has liberals preaching a violent response. This, of course, is making liberals' blood boil. The owner of the Old State Saloon in Eagle. Okay, that's where it is. Eagle. Eagle is also a bedroom community. East, I think. East or northeast of Boise. And the owner of the Old State Saloon has a knack for getting under the skin of leftists. And he preempted Pride Month by celebrating Heterosexual Awareness Month. Great. And they got so incensed they made threats against the proprietor, including calls for arson. And the thought of simply not frequenting his restaurant doesn't even enter their minds. And they've continued to go nuts because of this. They've said that, oh, you know, what we're going to do is, well, we're going to threaten you. And that's exactly what they've done. But after what we've seen in 2025, as far as I'm concerned, there should be no expectation that 2026 is going to be any different. And as a matter of fact, I would wager, and I don't quantify myself as a negative Nelly, but I do quantify myself as a realist. I think 2026 is going to be even more challenging than 2025. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening live to the BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Also, later in podcast, I know people watch later in podcast, and also the podcast on Spreaker later, and on any podcast place you can find us. We're all over the place. And thanks for being here. Thanks for listening and watching live. Thanks for being in chat live. Thanks for watching later in podcast or any rebroadcast that may occur with my permissione, con su permissione. And with that, I say promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, by the Shure and Electro Voice microphone companies, by the Arrakis Company, the people that make my mixer, and by Pratt & Whitney engines. They are dependable, and they produce thrust that you can trust. Tiaras, as I've said before, are by My Little Pony. Here it is one final time. And thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refilling team, with whom I shall be converting in less than 10 months. 10 months? No, 10 minutes. What am I saying? Don't scare me like that. I'm scared.
Everybody. Good night, Mama. Night,
I'm not so scared.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy. Good night, children.
I know
Good night,
there's
Dad.
more of
Good night,
this
Linda.
waiting
Good night,
for me
Good night, Tim Bob.
right over
Good night,
there.
Tim Bob. Good night, Tim Bob. What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing? Good night, Tim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.